Hi guys, it's your host Josh from Recovery Talks 24/7. We are sponsored by the amazing Money Wellness, who deal with your debt. And if you have any sort of questions that you'd like to talk to Money Wellness about in regards to budgeting or any sort of tips and tricks and how to get your finances a little bit better, then please do get in contact with Money Wellness. They are an amazing company. They supported me and helped me get out of my debt. And I'm now currently on a DRO, and it's been an amazing journey so far. So without further ado today, we have an amazing guest with us. Her name is Sue, and she is from Bet No More. She's come all the way to get interviewed today and share a bit of her story. And I cannot wait to get the ball rolling and hear what she's gone through. So Sue, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thank you so much again for coming down and being able to turn up today and share a bit about your story. So Sue, can you share a little bit about your background and how you first got involved with gambling?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was strange actually, because it wasn't until my mid-20s, and prior to that, I was really against gambling. I'd never so much as bought a lottery ticket in my life, so it was something that really came out of nowhere for me. So as I said, I wasn't a gambler. My partner at the time, now my ex-husband, he was, I wouldn't say he was a gambling addict. He was into gambling. He used to go to casinos. He used to like the fruit machines in the pubs, things like that, but nothing major, nothing out of the ordinary. And when we were planning to get married, it kind of occurred to me that it might be nice to go to Las Vegas to get married, because it was something that I knew would appeal to him. Didn't particularly appeal to me at the time, but I thought what a wonderful thing that would be for him, for us to go away, take all the stress out of the occasion, all the planning, all the expense, and we were just going to go and get married in Las Vegas, which is exactly what we did. Now, at certain parts of that holiday, we were out there for 2 weeks. The first week, we were pretty much I was bored out of my tree. I didn't know what to do because I wasn't a gambler. I was in this place that was nothing but casinos left and right. Every hotel was a casino, everything, And I remember we were sitting at the bars of the evening, just trying to pass some time, really. And we'd ordered a drink at this one bar, and the barman said to me, well, you do realise these drinks are free if you just put some money in these machines. And I was like, okay. And then that's the road that we went down.
Yeah.
So one day I will go back to Las Vegas and I will kill that barman. On my list of things to do. But from there, basically, I started playing slot machines, and it was so much fun. I kind of just was struck by the thought that I didn't know where this had been my whole life. It just felt like something that was so natural, so fun, so harmless. And I never really put two together and thought that I never equated that with gambling, really. Gambling, to me, I had this stereotype of what a gambler looked like. And I'd met gamblers before. I'd worked in pubs, and there was a lot of people that were across the road from a bookies, for example, and you'd see people coming in having lost all kinds of money and, sports betting, things like that. To me, that was a gambler. That was a man. It was a man of a certain age. It was a man who was in a pub and he was placing sports bets. That was a gambler. Yeah. I was not gambling. I was playing a game, and it was all lights and colours and music. And for a long time, for that entire holiday, I thought, well, this is great. Really enjoyed it. Yeah. We came back from Las Vegas and then started to frequent the casinos local to us. And again, it was so harmless, and it was something that we both really enjoyed, something that we could do together. So we started to go more and more often, and the amounts that we were spending were really, they weren't too big. It was small amounts of money. It was nothing that we couldn't afford, and it just kind of went on from there. And we went along that way for, I would say, a couple of years. Yeah. It got to the point where we were going most evenings, and again, it was something that we were doing together. It was something that we were doing within the realms of what we could afford, so it never seemed that it was too problematic. And I think really the change started to happen for me when it went online, when I realised that I could access the same games that I was playing in casino online. And when that happened, when it went online, it stopped being something that we were doing together, and it became something that I was doing alone. And from there, the smaller amounts that I was spending in the reduced time that I was at the casino, it sort of went exponentially larger as I had a lot more time and nobody watching. And I think that was the main thing. Nobody, if I was out with my husband at casino, he would know. If I was going to say, oh, I'm going to take some more money out, and there would be a maybe you don't need to do that, let's go home, okay. But there were no reins on me when it was online. It was the only constrained by the amount of money I had in my bank, and unfortunately, it just went from there. And that was in the beginning, and before too long, it just I think it spanned about 12 years, I would say, the addiction, and by the end, those small amounts became ridiculous sums of money. Amounts. Yeah, always needed to be more, faster, higher, just to get that same hit that I got in the beginning.
Yeah. So you started off at Las Vegas.
I did,
of all places, you've gone there to get married, and from what I can see, I've never been in Las Vegas, but it's flashing colours, there's the casinos, like you said, you've had this barman that you want to go and attack now. And I get it, it's that fun lifestyle. It all started off as a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
And then you've now also said you've come back and you've noticed you can seclude yourself away, and there's these apps, there's these obviously places you can go and gamble, and it's more seclusive. You can do what you want in regards to how much you want to put. So I'm guessing now this is going to impact your daily life, and obviously you must have had like a routine before. Did this start to have a real impact in your life?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was newly married, and we'd moved house, we'd moved into a new house. So this kind of came with everything else. So it came with the bigger changes. So it kind of felt normal. It felt like something I'd always done. And I was, at the time, I think when it was really, really bad, I was a teacher, and I had a lot of work to do at home, so I would be sort of sitting at the computer, but it would start that I would start lesson planning, and that would soon mean, that I would lean into another website, and I would start to deposit money on these online casinos. And it did get to the point where I'm thinking, okay, I'm overspending, and I knew I was spending too much, so I would set limits. I would, and I would exclude from these casinos. But unfortunately, what happens with these online casinos is, if you exclude from one, there's 20 more the next week to choose from, and so there was always a constant supply. It doesn't matter how many times you exclude, you've always got another avenue, unfortunately. Yeah. So that was, I got into that cycle of exclude, find another, exclude, find another. It just got to ridiculous proportions until one point, as I mentioned, I was a teacher. I was a newly qualified teacher. I think I was earning something in the region of 23 grand a year. On my worst night, I spent £7,000.
Wow. And
that was a huge chunk of money. And at that point, it's not recreational anymore. I knew I had a problem, but it's just so difficult to reach out. Certainly, I felt as a woman, I felt that the traditional group support, for example, I looked up GA groups, I would never have dared walk in because I knew that there would be a room full of men, and I would feel highly intimidated by that. And I just felt like, I shouldn't be involved in this. I shouldn't be experiencing this. This is not something that's for women. This is something that men experience. So I felt very much alone in that.
But here you are today, being able to share, your story as a woman, and it's great that you've been able to share this story with us, because there's going to be women that are going to be listening to this, and they're going to go, "Oh my God, I'm not alone." It's not just men that go through these issues; it's women as well. Yeah. And it's great that you've been able to hopefully give these other women a voice, for able to speak this out as well. So, you've already said that you've happily got newlywed, with your husband. You've come back, you've got a great job, helping students out, and you're now obviously starting to realise you're doing little things on the sly. I'm guessing this really did have an effect on your relationship, with your family, obviously husband as well.
Yes, it did.
Spending that amount of money.
It wasn't just the money I was spending, it was where I was getting it from. I didn't earn a lot of money. I was taking out loans, I was taking out credit cards. It was still at the time when you could gamble on credit cards, so I was literally maxing. I was in so much debt, it was eye-watering, and I never had anything to show for it. I didn't have expensive clothes, I didn't have a flash car, I just gambled. That was all I did with my money. So people, obviously, when I started, it was a few years in that I actually started to make people aware. It was one particularly bad evening, that the one I mentioned with the 7,000, that I actually reached out to my mum, and I just sent her what must have been an extremely worrying text message, just that I was at the pits of everything. I believed that was my rock bottom at the time, and I reached out and I just said to Mum, I sent her this text message at about 4 or 5 in the morning saying I'm a gambling addict, and I don't know what to do, I need help. And of course, I'm getting the phone calls the next day, and I came clean and I talked to people, and you know, people sort of rallied around me and they said, okay, let's have a look at your financial situation. My mum very kindly paid off some credit cards. Again, that's the help that doesn't help, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, I'd love to say that moment was the day I turned it around, but it was years after that I actually stopped. As much as I'd recognised the difficulty that I was in, and the fact that I knew I was a compulsive gambler, I still held on to this belief that it was the only thing in life I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't tear myself away, and I couldn't imagine life without it. So I just kept going, and it became harder to ask for support because everyone believed I'd already quit, because that's what I'd led them to believe. So again, I just got myself deeper and deeper into difficulty. I lied to borrow money. I stole. You know, I don't think there was any depth that I wouldn't have sunk to just to keep going. Yeah. And it wasn't about the money in the end. It didn't matter. I could win, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't win because I couldn't stop. I just wanted to keep hitting that button. That was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah. And it sounds like as well, it just wasn't filling that void anymore.
No.
And as well, you know, you must have, at the beginning, I'm sure when you was at Vegas, you was getting that buzz of you winning and you're hearing all them loud noises.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen it on the programs and you hear all these loud and people are shouting and screaming and it's great, isn't it? But it's obviously, it sounds like with you now, it's gone from that to you just keep hitting that button, and that's crazy, isn't it? And there's probably a lot of people out there that are having that feeling and they don't know why, and you've just kind of shown them like, this is the reason why. It's just, you're feeling a void, and it's just, why do we need to do this? So in regards to like your emotional state, your mental health state, did it affect that in any way?
Oh, extremely. I was ill. I was physically ill, you know, with everything that I was putting myself through. And I remember that, I mean, my behaviour became so erratic. I was drinking heavily. I was putting myself in very dangerous situations that I shouldn't be in. And I think I just burnt everything to the ground. I ended up that I left the teaching profession. I couldn't sustain the workload. I just wasn't coping. I didn't realise I was meeting myself coming back. I was gambling until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to teach classes at 9. It just was never going to work. And yeah, the relationship breakdown happened. You know, it happened over a time, really. To be honest, I don't think the relationship itself ever had a chance, because I entered into addiction as soon as we got married. So you know, it's just the way that things went, unfortunately. Yeah. But I did. I mean, mentally, I was in a really, really dark place. Again, like you say, there's the lights and the excitement of winning in Las Vegas and the casinos, but the reality of gambling addiction is that it's very solitary, it's dark, it's robotic. It gets to the point where I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of what I'm doing. I just want to blow my money because I want it to be over, but I couldn't stop. Yeah. So I did go and see a doctor, and I was prescribed antidepressants, and I walked out with this script that I've got for antidepressants, and I thought, well, this is not going to do me any good. And the reason for that was I didn't have the money to get the prescription filled. It was £8. I didn't have that. So it was just, you know, it was a ridiculous, the situation, to be honest. But yeah, I think that was when I actually really hit my rock bottom.
Yeah, wow. And like, even just with you explaining then, it was like I was visually there just seeing you just coming out, getting that prescription. It's like, I can't even pay for that. And it's gone from, amazing how you've put it, you've gone from flashing lights, it's all happy glory, and it's just in this dark place. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of it is leading for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, it is.
And they don't realise it, you know. So in regards to, you know, you've hit your rock bottom, so there must have been a point where you was like, I need to get help, I need to get some form of recovery, but you don't know where to go or what to do. What did you do?
I reached out a few times, and I reached out to some online chat facilities of people, because you do a Google search, you look for gambling harm, got gambling addiction, and you find a number of contacts. And again, I think at the time I reached out, perhaps I wasn't quite ready to engage. I did try, and I went and had some. I only vaguely remember it. It's a strange thing. I think I was in such a terrible state mentally at the time. It's hard to sort of piece the memories together. But I remember I was sat in some community centre local to me, and there was somebody sat across from me talking to me about addictive behaviours. And I just remember sitting there thinking, you can't help me. And that's all I couldn't get that out of my head. I was like, you don't understand and you can't help me. And that's kind of really stuck with me, is that I knew I wasn't talking to somebody who I was talking to somebody who was very sympathetic and probably very well qualified to help me.
Yeah.
But to me, they didn't understand what I was going through, so I couldn't gain anything from that, and I couldn't really share because it still felt so. It's almost humiliating, you know, to come out and say these things because you think you're the only person in the world who has these thoughts and these feelings, and it's only when I actually started to engage with the lived experience community that I realised that there were plenty of other women just like me who've had exactly the same experiences and then some, you know, and we've all got these deep pockets of shame, and it's difficult to overcome the stigma, but the more you do it and the more you speak to these women who get it, the easier that becomes. So I mean, how I actually got through it is by just protecting myself. I signed up for GamStop, GamBan, everything. I mean, I just remember this one day and I'm sat and I'm thinking, I'm 39 years old, I'm divorced, I'm living with my mum. You know, I've wasted the last 15 years. What am I going to do? You know, I can't carry on like this, I'll die, you know, and that was kind of the realisation. So I took matters in my own hands and I self-excluded from everywhere. And as soon as I'd done that, I immediately tried to get out of it. I'd spend hours searching for a site I could get on, but it stuck. And then I started to tackle my finances, which I just had my head in the sand for probably a decade about, to be honest. But it was just a case of picking up the phone, taking stock, making a list, calling people. And I was so terrified. I remember calling that first credit card to say, look, I can't pay this. I'm a gambling addict and every penny that I owe you has come from that. And I was expecting judgment and of all sorts, you know. I was expecting I didn't even know if I might get prosecuted. I didn't know what the consequences of that were going to be. But I was absolutely gobsmacked to find that what I got was support from my creditors, you know.
Wow.
That the level of understanding, and you know, I remember one credit card provider who called me every year for years after to check that I was okay. Wow. And it was just something that I just wouldn't have expected, and it was such a relief, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's great as well because you've been able to, you know, whoever's listening at home, you've just picked the phone up. You had that fear at first, but you opened your mouth, you spoke, and you actually realised, hold on, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like we live in a country where it's like it's not good to talk, but it's so amazing to talk and to get the words out and to, you know, to make that phone call, and straight away you've just been accepted with open arms. So you sound like now you've got yourself in a form of a group, so you're able to meet other women and do some, you know, talk and know that you're not the only person.
Yeah.
So was that your sort of strategy of getting through day by day in not being able to gamble anymore and to stick around?
I guess I had more time on my hands. You don't realise just how much, and it's not just money that you spend when you're in these kind of situations, it's the time that you lose, the opportunities that you forfeit as well. I mean, it all adds up. And with the time that I had at that point, I started to become active on social media. So I found the groups, the Gambling Addiction Support. And I remember people were posting on there, there were so many woe is me posts, which you would expect. It's like, this has just happened and that's happened and everything. You just, you know, your heart goes out and it really does. Then I remember one woman had posted, where are the stories of the people who are succeeding? It's like, how can I believe it's possible if all I hear is people feeling like they're failing? And then I replied to that post and I said, well, I think I'm doing it, you know. I think I'm succeeding. Yeah. And then from there, the response that I had from that is people started to message me directly, and then I started to engage with people who were seeking recovery. And that, I mean, you talk about giving back, right? But if anything, I felt that was really selfish on my part, because I got so much from speaking to these people and having them say to me, I'm so glad you posted that because I'm the same and this is my experience. And from talking to people in that way, that's what really got me into the idea of peer support, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since, really, in one form or another.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so in regards to with your recovery, was there any sort of like challenges you faced? Because obviously it's quite difficult, isn't it? You know, especially with gambling, that every site you go on, it's in your face, it's on your TV adverts, it's when you walk down the road, it's on the posters. So how are you getting through with your recovery? Like, was it tricky sometimes?
Yeah, and it still is. I mean, the one thing I hate is the TV advertising with the spinning reels, because I still feel a trigger to that. I
Okay.
still have an emotional response to that when I see those. But it's about staying connected. And now when I see something like that that makes me feel triggered, I can pick the phone up to one of my colleagues or somebody and I
Yeah.
can say, oh, I've just seen that advert again. Oh, I know. And we can have that. And I think certainly for women, being able to have that kind of connection where you can just pick the phone up and go, do you know what, I'm having a bad day and I just need to have a little bit of rant about this. And it's like, yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So I have that now in a way that I didn't then. And that's why I think it's so important for people to I mean, certainly for women to have the opportunity to connect in that way.
Yeah. So it's amazing what you're doing now, obviously. So how's your life changed since you've started your recovery journey? That's what we want to know.
Yeah, loads. I mean, from where I was to when I had that moment and I'm thinking, you know, I said, I'm 39, divorced, this is happening, that's happening.
Yeah.
I thought, I made a kind of plan. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could buy a house? Wouldn't it be? And all these things that seemed so far-fetched and completely ridiculous. And I was in a level of debt that seemed completely insurmountable. But a couple of years ago, I did buy that house, and I'm living in that house now. I am working for a fantastic charity called Bet No More, where I met my colleagues who I mentioned now, lovely Lisa, Deb, Christine, who are all women who have their own lived experience of gambling harm. And I feel like I found my tribe, you know, I found my people. And what we do, we have the New Beginnings service with Bet No More, which is for women only.
Okay.
And it just kind of recognises the importance for women of having that connection, of being able to be listened to without fear of judgment in a safe space. So the groups that we have women join us all the time. And like I say, I get so much from that. It doesn't matter how long I'll be in recovery. I'll be in recovery for 50 years and I will still get something from every one of the women who comes to use our service.
That's amazing. So what advice would you give to someone that is listening right now and they're going, oh my God, there's a woman speaking and she was an ex-gambling addict. I want to know, like, what advice would you give to that person?
I would say reach out, get help. Because the way I did it was different, you know, because I didn't feel that there was anywhere that would help me. But there are all these things you can do. I say protect yourself, transfer your finances, but if you reach out and get help from somebody who understands, then you'll have somebody to guide you through that and hold your hand through that whole process. We can help with every aspect of that. We've got links to debt management charities. We can help you out with blocking software, anything like that. And I would say definitely just reach out. Know that you're not the only one. Every time you sit there and think, oh, I'm so, you know, I'm so dysfunctional, which is what we believe. You are not. You know, you are one of many people who feel exactly the same. And just reach out and have a conversation and just see where it can get you.
That's amazing, Sue. And to finish it off, how long have you been out of the gambling addiction?
It will be 5 years next month, actually.
Ooh,
So,
that is amazing.
Okay.
That is phenomenal. And it goes to show it works. You
Yeah.
know, you are here today, your lived experience, and it does go to show it works. And I'm sure, you know, you have met people that are going through this journey and they're falling, but they're getting back up. And like you said, you're just welcoming them back with open arms. And I think that's the most beautiful thing as well. Sometimes, you know, we have to make them mistakes and then we just, as long as we've got that support around us, that's the most important thing. Amazing story. Thank you so much for coming in today and to sharing that. I really do hope there is somebody listening today that is really like related to a lot what you've said, and definitely whoever's listening to definitely get in contact with Bet No More. And obviously there's going to be more further information that we're going to put out on this podcast as well if anyone wants to reach out and if they just want to ask any questions at all. So thank you so much again, Sue. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's
no
been a
problem.
pleasure.
You
Thanks.
take care. Cheers.